Minneapolis was supposed to be the exception, a one-off, a misunderstanding, but what happened there didn't stay there. So what you're watching right now, this is an Out by Dawn 2.0, and this time, it's not just one city. It's not just one state. This is not just one program, because once President Trump unleashed ICE in Minneapolis, something snapped. Suddenly, the same cities that spent years hiding behind sanctuary labels are scrambling. Welfare officers are freezing applications. NGOs are lowering up. State officials are whispering instead of bragging. And audits are quietly spreading across the country like wildfire. Why? Because when deportation enforcement returned, the fraud couldn't hide anymore. The people cashing checks that they never qualified for, the nonprofits that ballooned overnight during the pandemic, the local governments that looked the other way because enforcement was politically inconvenient. Well, let's just say that Minneapolis wasn't the story. It was the trigger. And so once ICE started knocking, the money trail lit up. Once flights started leaving, the fake paperwork collapsed. Once sanctuary protections cracked, the entire welfare systems just started bleeding the truth. And now, other states are panicking because they know what Minneapolis just proved. This isn't about rhetoric. It's about receipts. This is what happens when enforcement meets accountability, and this is also why there's no place left to hide. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Let's jump in here, guys. So Minneapolis wasn't random. It was deliberate. When ICE surged into Minneapolis, this wasn't some symbolic enforcement stunt. This was coordinated. I mean, I'm talking rapid detentions, deportation flights staged and executed. Federal authority asserted in a city that had spent years advertising itself as untouchable. Now, here's the key part about this whole thing. Sanctuary protections failed immediately. As soon as ICE showed up, the local roadblocks, they didn't matter. City officials couldn't slow it down. Activists couldn't stop it. The system that they built to delay enforcement, it collapsed the moment federal law was enforced as written. This is why Minneapolis matters. It sent a message, not just to the migrants, but to every state agency, every NGO, every sanctuary city that's watching closely. Enforcement is back, it's centralized, and it doesn't ask for permission. So, because if this can happen in Minneapolis, a model sanctuary city, the question becomes unavoidable. If it can happen here, where else has it already started? So notice something very important here, okay? This fraud wasn't uncovered by audits. It wasn't caught by oversight boards. It wasn't exposed by internal compliance. It surfaced after arrests began. The moment ICE started detaining people, welfare programs started breaking. Suddenly, identities didn't line up. Residency claims collapsed. Entire benefit streams were tied to individuals who were no longer eligible or never were to begin with. This is when fraud networks unraveled, not because the state found them, but because enforcement forced verification. People who had been collecting benefits for years vanished overnight. NGOs stopped returning phone calls. Welfare offices quietly froze approvals, and the money trail finally snapped. Not from paperwork, but from pressure. This is the uncomfortable truth. The money trail didn't break until the handcuffs came out. So here's the part that nobody wants to say out loud, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Sanctuary cities didn't just protect people, they protected systems from scrutiny. So when local governments refused to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement, they didn't just block ICE, they blocked verification, residency checks, identity confirmation, cross-agency accountability. Welfare agencies were suddenly operating blind. Local officials made it very clear. Don't ask too many questions. Don't share too much information. And whatever you do, definitely do not trigger anything that might invite federal involvement. Well, that environment right there didn't just slow down enforcement, it invited exploitation. Criminal actors figured it out real fast. If nobody checks residency, you can claim it. If nobody verifies identity, you can duplicate it. If no one verifies the law, you can monetize it. And that is exactly what happened. Sanctuary didn't create a safe space for people. It created a safe operating zone for fraud. This is why once enforcement returned, the panic wasn't moral, it was logistical. Because sanctuary didn't just protect people, it protected fraud. This is where the money really moved. So during the pandemic, NGOs exploded overnight. I'm talking there was explosions of NGOs overnight, folks. Emergency funding, rushed grants, stimulus checks, minimal oversight, billions pushed out under the banner of compassion with almost no verification. And who benefited from that? The same cities, the same networks, the same political ecosystems. NGOs became pass-throughs, taking public money and distributing it through programs that were never designed to be audited properly. There was no competitive bidding. There was no long-term tracking. There was no real accountability. And here's the key connection. Many of these NGOs, they weren't just service providers, they were political infrastructure. Same donors, same activists, same officials that are praising them publicly while funding followed privately. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. This wasn't chaos. This was a pipeline. And once ICE enforcement disrupted the human side of that pipeline, the financial side started collapsing right behind it. Now, before we move on, I do want to pause here just for a moment because this is exactly how people get hurt when systems are not transparent. A man reached out to me recently. He told me his story. So he hid a stack of medical bills from his wife because his Medicare plan didn't cover the visits that he assumed that it would. He thought he understood his coverage. He didn't. The bills piled up quietly, and his wife didn't find out until a debt collector called the house. He told me it was the most ashamed I've ever felt. This is what happens when systems rely on fine print instead of clarity. This is why I partner with Chapter. Chapter shows you the truth behind your Medicare coverage before it turns into some secret debt, panic, or even a phone call that you never saw coming. They walk through your plan, your entire plan, line by line, and they tell you exactly what is covered and what is not covered. And so most people, they don't need convincing. They just need someone to catch the problem early. And this is why most people are dialing the phone number right there at the bottom of your screen, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. I left a link for you down below in the description of this video, but their phone number is 909-563-8279. And I do want to thank Chris Perez, who commented on a previous video. He said, Ron, Chapter saved me $5,900. Chris, I really appreciate you sharing that. Those are real dollars. And that kind of relief really matters, especially when people are on fixed incomes and they're just trying to do the right thing. So, all right, let's get back to the story. So what Minneapolis exposed didn't stay contained. Other states went quiet, and that silence mattered. Not denials, not press conferences, quiet. Behind the scenes, internal audits began, welfare agencies began, they started reviewing files that they hadn't even touched in years. Approvals slowed down. Some programs froze entirely. NGOs that had been loud and omnipresent during the pandemic suddenly stopped posting updates. Why? Because no governor wants to be the next headline. No mayor wants federal agents showing up with receipts, and no state agency wants to explain how benefits ballooned while verification disappeared. This isn't speculation. This is pattern recognition. When systems are clean, they defend themselves loudly. When the systems are dirty, they brace. And right now, states aren't denying Minneapolis happened. They're preparing for it. They're not denying it, they're bracing for it. This is where Trump flipped the script. So instead of starting with audits, task forces, and endless reports, enforcement came first. Deportations forced reality. Documentation mattered again. Residency claims were tested, not assumed. And once enforcement returned, everything else followed. People who couldn't prove legal presence couldn't maintain benefits. Welfare eligibility collapsed the moment residency was challenged. Fraud didn't need to be found. It became impossible to sustain. That is the brilliance of this strategy. I mean, you don't need 10 committees if one law is enforced. And so by removing the ability to hide behind sanctuary status, Trump forced accountability without rewriting a single statute. That system right there corrected itself under pressure, because at the end of the day, you can't run a fraud scheme if you can't stay in the country to operate it. You see what I'm saying here? So you can't cash checks if you can't prove you're here. This didn't suddenly become possible by accident. What changed is who's in charge. Under President Trump, federal authority didn't retreat, it reasserted itself. DOJ, DHS, and ICE stopped working at cross purposes. No more hands-off memos, no more selective enforcement, no more pretending sanctuary jurisdictions could override federal law. And once that alignment happened, the leverage shifted. States that once dared the federal government to intervene realized that they no longer controlled the pace. Court delays stopped working. Political pressure lost its bite. The old assumption the enforcement could always be stalled, that all of that collapsed. This is why it's happening right now. Not because fraud suddenly appeared, but because it finally got confronted. And this wasn't allowed to happen before, but now it is. And this is exactly why officials across the country rattled, because once authority is reasserted, it's kind of hard to put the genie back in the bottle. And you probably noticed something else. As this spreads, the coverage shrinks. Local outlets frame it as isolated. National networks lag behind what's happening on the ground. The focus shifts away from the arrests, the audits, and deportations, and straight on back to rhetoric and outrage. Why? Because the story doesn't fit the script. If Minneapolis was a one-off, it could be dismissed. But Once other states started tightening, once NGOs go dark, once welfare offices freeze approvals, that no longer is rhetorical, it's operational. And silence becomes safer than explanation, because if this wasn't real, why are cities panicking? Why are audits happening quietly? Why is enforcement accelerating? The media isn't chasing the story, they're waiting it out. But the system doesn't care who covers it. Now, here's where the narrative completely breaks down. The loudest claims say everyone is at risk. The legal residents are being targeted. The citizens are somehow in danger. That's not what enforcement data shows, though. The pressure is landing on illegal actors tied to fraud, not law-abiding immigrants who follow the rules. People with valid status aren't losing benefits. People with real documentation aren't disappearing overnight. The panic isn't coming from families who did things right. It's coming from systems that relied on not checking. Fraud participants knew the moment verification returned, their cover was gone. NGOs knew the moment that residency mattered again, funding streams would collapse. Activists knew the moment that enforcement resumed, the talking points wouldn't survive contact with facts. This is why the messaging got louder, not calmer, because panic doesn't protect the innocent, it shields the guilty. And right now, the noise is doing exactly that. I mean, don't take my word for it. Just watch what the leaders are doing right now. They're not celebrating sanctuary anymore. They're distancing themselves from it. Governors and mayors who once bragged about defying federal law, they're suddenly careful with their words. Blame is being passed quietly behind closed doors. Agencies are pointing fingers. Legal teams are being assembled. Why? Because enforcement creates records, and records create subpoenas. Nobody wants to be the official who approved unchecking funds. Nobody wants to be that guy. Nobody wants to explain why warnings were ignored. And nobody wants audits landing in an election year. Oh, God forbid that, right? And so this is why the tone shifted so fast. They defended the system when it paid off, and now they're running from this thing. I mean, I wouldn't want to stick around when a grenade pin has been pulled. And so the fear isn't about optics. It's more about exposure, because once these federal audits and enforcement collide, excuses just don't matter. Only the paper trails do. Now, Minneapolis wasn't unique. It was just exposed first. So what it revealed exists everywhere. The overlap between welfare systems, NGOs, and immigration enforcement gaps, none of that's regional, it's structural. If a city declared itself a sanctuary, loosened verification, and flooded nonprofits with emergency money, the same vulnerabilities exist. This is why this can be repeated, because the federal model is now established. ICE enforcement forces identity verification. Verification collapses fraudulent eligibility. Welfare programs tighten overnight. NGOs lose the ability to operate in the shadows. And here's the key detail. No city has political immunity from federal law. Not New York, not Chicago, not San Francisco, not Los Angeles. Minneapolis showed what happens when law enforcement finally meets a system built on assumption instead of verification. And so now that the playbook is proven, it doesn't stop at one state. This map doesn't stop at Minnesota. This is where it all leads, guys. Once deportations begin, accountability follows. Once accountability follows, funding dries up. Once funding dries up, the system has to change. NGOs that thrived on emergency chaos lose pipelines. Welfare systems are forced to tighten or collapse. Sanctuary policies lose their leverage when federal law is enforced consistently. And what replaces it isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Benefits tied to verification, aid is tied to eligibility, compassion is tied to law. That's the end game. Not mass panic, but mass exposure. Minneapolis showed exactly what happens when the lights turn on. The roaches scatter. The flights weren't the headline, they were the consequences. The real story is the fraud that could not survive enforcement. This isn't about rhetoric, it's about results. And once enforcement starts, it doesn't quietly stop. This is why this moment matters, and why Sanctuary America is being rewritten right now. Like, subscribe, I'll see you next time.